Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Safety Connection, Breaking Language Barriers, Worker Safety in Manufacturing. My name is David Smith, and I'll be your host for today's session. But before we get started with today's session, some virtual housekeeping items I want to step through. The audio for today's session is through your computer speakers. That said, you may want to consider using a headset or earbuds for better sound quality. In addition to that, we try to do our best to minimize distractions. So we turned off all the participants' cameras when we muted all your microphones. That said, you may want to consider either muting the devices in your own personal workspace or even shutting them down. Also, too, we will have a dedicated question and answer period at the end of today's session, and we encourage you to ask your questions as you think of them. We'll do our best to work through as many of your questions as we can throughout the session. Whatever ones we don't get to, we'll try to answer them at the end. Now, to ask a question, you can use a chat feature. And that is located in the ribbon at the top of your screen there. Also, too, if you want to make general comments, you can do it using the chat feature. And there are a few more features that are part of the Teams with respect to the chat feature. If you want to do a reaction, you can. I'm not big on reactions. I really don't really do reactions, but you have that option as well. And also, too, we're going to try to make this session as interactive as possible. We will have a few polling questions. We ask you to do your best on the polling questions. We don't think they're that difficult. Just do your best to answer them. Now, depending on your computer's or your organization's security on your computer, you may not be able to answer the polling questions as we bring them across. That said, you may want to answer them using the chat feature. Now, there's a couple more features I want to step through with respect to Microsoft Teams. And these are the accessibility features. So if you want to turn on the live or captions option, you can do so by going to the More Action Item menu or the three dots, scrolling down to where it says Language and Speech, and then turning on live captions. And if you're like me, you want to view things in full screen mode. To do so, you go where it says View, scroll down to where it says More Options, and then you click on full screen mode. Prior to the pandemic, we used to host what we called network knowledge exchanges at various locations throughout the province. And we had people within that general area attend these sessions. During the pandemic, we wanted to stay in touch with industry personnel or professionals like yourself. So the only way that we could do it was to develop this virtual option. And we discovered too that this platform has worked well for us. It gave industry professionals like yourself an opportunity to attend today's session from the safety of your own personal workspace. And also too, it reduced the amount of travel for us, but more importantly, it reduced the amount of travel for you. And also too, we could reach a broader audience. So before, with them being regional, we were kind of confined to one particular geographic location. Today, we have folks from all over the province in a variety of different sectors. Now, take away from what you can from this and learn what you can, but more importantly, share it with your colleagues. And like your workplace or like Canada, your workplace probably has colleagues that speak different languages. And maybe English is their second or even third language. So we're going to cover off a few things today. We're going to look at what are communication barriers. We're going to look at verbal and nonverbal communication barriers. Then we're going to look at 9 tips for overcoming language barriers in the workplace. We're going to share with you some multilingual resources to share with your workers. I don't know, I'm struggling today speaking, and then we'll get into a question and answer period at the end of today's session. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce today's presenter. He's the main feature of today's presentation, Mr. Bill Chen. Bill has been with WSPS for about 10 years and he is a CRSP. And Bill, you have a very compelling story, and I probably can't do it justice telling it. So can you tell us a bit about yourself, like when you came to Canada and where you worked and how you ended up here today?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dave. Thank you for having me here and giving me an opportunity to share my experience. Many years ago, I was a newcomer too. When I came to Canada, I followed the same path as most newcomers did. The settlement agency I used was great in helping me with interview preparation, resume, and job search, but no one taught me about my rights and duties as a worker. I was lucky to start my career with a manufacturing company, then became a joint health and safety committee member. I had my certification training with WSPS. That was how I first knew WSPS. We were also a member of WSIB Safety Group with WSPS as our consulting organization. Later, I became a volunteer with WSPS and presented health and safety to co-op students in high schools. Finally, I worked for WSPS in 2014. With the support of WSPS, I finished my occupational health and safety certification program with the RIASM, passed the test, and became a Canadian registered safety professional. And during my health and safety journey, I experienced many issues caused by language and cultural difference in the workplace. Now I'm so glad and proud to be part of an initiative to remove those barriers in workplace and help those workers whose first language is not English and work for a safer Ontario.
Fantastic. Bill, thanks for sharing and welcome to this morning. We look forward to hearing more from you, which brings us to our first polling question. So Emily, we have Emily in the background helping us out. Bill and I are not that technically savvy. Well, maybe Bill is, I'm not. So we have folks helping us out. So we ask that you answer this the best you can. And if you can't answer it, maybe type it into the chat. So do you have any people in your workplace that speak English as a second language? And we want to just kind of get a feel for what we have with the folks online today with us. I'm just going to open up the chat. So right now we're cruising along at 100% of folks that have workers where English is a second language. So we'll keep this open for a few more seconds. Give everybody a chance to learn how to do the polling questions and answer them. Yeah, okay, thank you, Kathy. Yeah, we have a majority of our workplace. Emily, we'll keep it open for 5 more seconds and we'll close it. And it looks like most of the folks here on the call have workers where English is the second language. Okay, Emily, we'll close that off. All right. So, like Canada, your workplace, and we just found out from the polling question, probably comprises of many different folks that speak different languages. And over the next 20 years, it is projected that the province of Ontario will have approximately 4.4 new residents coming to live here. And some of these folks that are coming in may not speak English as their first language, but may have English maybe as their second language or just learning the language, so on and so forth. And that said, it's our responsibility to help keep these individuals safe. And there are communication barriers. And Bill, can you, just based on your experience from coming here and what you learned being out there in the field, so on and so forth, can you kind of step us through the difference between language barriers and cultural barriers?
Yeah, thank you. So today I want to start by talking about the 2 barriers to effective communication in our workplace, and they are language barriers and the cultural difference.
Okay, Bill, I'll let you take, you got control there, Bill. And I just want to say something as well. So, Bill, you and I talked briefly about this, and one cultural barrier, and you can kind of speak about this a little bit later, is you go by Bill, but your first name is Hung, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we talked about that before everybody joined on the call. And you talk a bit about that in a minute when we get into cultural barriers.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so first, let's talk about language barriers. So a language barrier can be defined as any linguistic limitation that creates confusion or prevents comprehension in the workplace. These gaps prevent workers from communicating effectively. When a non-English speaking worker does not understand the health and safety training or cannot effectively communicate with their coworkers or supervisors about the hazard, the workplace is at risk to all types of injuries, including fatality or critical injury. So this is something very serious and needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and Bill, like this is especially true in industries like manufacturing and construction where workers are using heavy machinery, right? And if they're not trained properly or if they don't quite understand the training, it can have fatal consequences as a result of that.
Sure, yeah. And next is culture difference. One of the challenges that many new Canadians face is integrating into a new workplace. For them, the workplace culture is quite different from their home country. For example, in Ontario, workers have the right to know, the right to participate, and the right to refuse unsafe work. So there is a critical need to educate these workers on basic health and safety in Ontario. And the cultural difference means those variations in cultural traits between cultures, including different languages, religions, codes, customs, cultural mores, and so forth. For example, our workplace can be made up of workers with different ethnicities, races, religions, ages, genders, and sexual orientations. Norms from one culture may seem unfamiliar to people from another culture. Here are some examples. First, eye contact. In North America, looking at someone in the eyes while speaking to them is a sign of attentiveness. However, people from other cultures may perceive this as aggressive, intimidating, or even rude. And physical space. Culture can also influence how we keep personal space. People maintain different degrees of personal distance depending on their social setting and cultural background. For example, people from North America, North Europe, and most Asian countries tend to stand further apart. But in East Asian countries, workers are supposed to keep standing while talking with their supervisors. And we have physical contact. Physical contact can be another example, like greeting a coworker with a kiss on the cheek may be conventional in France and Spain, while workers from North America are likely to go for a handshake and minimize physical contact. It is best to follow the leads of your coworkers when greeting each other. And teamwork. Working independently is highly valued in some cultures, while other cultures may rely more on teamwork and cooperation and prefer working together. We must understand that besides an individual's personality, culture may influence how a worker gets the job done. And last but not least, we have gestures. Some gestures acceptable in North America, such as pointing or giving a thumb up, may not go over well in other countries or cultures.
Yeah, those are all good points. And that brings us to our next polling question. Emily, thanks for bringing that over. So there we are. All right. Is a communication barrier, culture, or language impacting safety in your workplace? Maybe, maybe not, or if you're unsure, yeah, just do your best to answer. So we'll keep it open for a few more seconds here. So right now we're sitting at yes at 65%, no at 10%, unsure at 25%. And we thank you, Kathy. And we have another yes there. Okay, Emily, can we close this off? That will bring us over to our next slide. And now, well, let's talk about how we come over or get over. Let me start that again. So let's have a chat now on the 9 tips to overcome language and communication barriers. And Bill, if you can scroll up to the next slide there, and the first tip might seem obvious, and that is one of the best ways to get to know new hires is to talk to them. And can you tell us why, based on your experience, why it's important for supervisors, employers, or even other workers make that connection with new hires or even new people to the country?
Yeah, exactly. It gives us an opportunity to develop the relationship and get to know the person. This proactive approach helps set communication expectations from the early days of employment and build trust among employer, supervisor, and workers. A good way to identify these barriers is to ask new hires what they need to understand and in training. Don't forget, according to WSIB data, during the first month of their working, the new workers are 3 times more likely to be injured than their experienced coworkers.
Yeah, and that brings us to the next point too. And as I just said a couple minutes ago, it is important to get to know your employees or your fellow workers and their unique experiences that they bring to the workplace. Hey, that said, Bill, what can be done in the workplace to better understand cultural differences?
Yeah, here I have some suggestions for employers and supervisors. First, get to know your employees and their unique experience. By learning a little more about their culture and background, you can begin to understand how their culture influences their working styles, preference, behaviors, and communication styles. And you should proactively educate supervisors and workers about the cultural difference within your workplace. Learning about other cultures can help you build rapport, trust, and understanding within the workplace. And you can learn some basic words and phrases in their languages, such as how to greet them, introductions, or expression of gratitude. And you can also learn about their cultural norms, values, and preferences, such as how they address people, how they express emotions, or how they negotiate. And if you have some workers from some cultures, maybe you can send e-cards or post a celebration poster in the workplace on their traditional festivals.
Those are all great points, Bill, and thanks for sharing that too. And now I want to talk a bit about language, right?
Yes.
And like English, for example, has a lot of slang or jargon that is used in the workplace. And if you have somebody that is learning the language, they might not be aware of the slang or the jargon that is used, right? Even some of the different terms.
Sure.
Now, can you expand on how speaking in plain language in avoiding slang or jargon rather during training or even talking to colleagues is important, especially with English as a second language and they're trying to learn the language?
Yeah. So when working with people from diversified backgrounds, speaking in plain, easily understandable language is essential in communication and training. And this can be accomplished by focusing on readability. One of the easiest ways to avoid misunderstanding and confusion is to use clear and simple language when communicating with your workers. First, don't just use jargon, slang, or idioms. These are phrases that have a different meanings than their literal ones, like it's raining cats and dogs, or I see him once in a blue moon. And avoid using acronyms. I know in health and safety, we use a lot of them, such as WHMIS or IRS, but they may not be familiar to your audience. When you really need to use those acronyms, use the full name and the first time and explain the meanings to your workers. And use short sentences and active voice. Speak slowly and clearly. Speak softly, smile, and make sure you have relaxed body language. And repeat and summarize key points and check for comprehension. If you need to use technical terms, explain them or provide examples.
Yeah, I think speaking slowly is very important. Like I know people that speak fast, and I could just imagine trying to understand what's being said if somebody is speaking fast and you're trying to figure out what they're saying in English, translating in some cases back to your first language, and then you get lost in it, right? Which brings us to the point here about the use of visuals?
Use of visuals can really make a difference when it comes to understanding concepts during training or communication, as they can convey meanings without words or with minimal text. We always say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Visuals can make your communication easier and more engaging, memorable, and persuasive. They can help you attract attention, simplify complex information, illustrate relationships, and evoke emotions. Visual aids can also support your verbal communication by reinforcing, clarifying, or emphasizing the key points. Visuals such as infographics, photos, videos, and diagrams can help workers understand what you are trying to convey without using too many words.
Is this you or me, Bill?
And here you see, we have some tips for providing training or resources in employees' language of choice. So the best solution would be to provide training directly in your workers' native tongue. It is also helped to provide translated supporting material, like a cheat sheet or recap videos that summarize everything you have discussed. And during training, check for comprehension by providing quizzes to make sure workers are understanding. If possible, have an interpreter in the room to help communication and understanding. And if you have enough budget, you may want to look for some professional translation service provider that can provide a reliable language solution so that you can offer translation of your training program.
Yeah, and we've all heard of different tools, right?
Yes.
And I mean, like Google Translate for one. And now there's different AI programs, so on and so forth. And Bill, like, what are your thoughts around using technology and tools to help bridge the language gap and facilitate communication? What do you recommend using?
Yeah, so now we are already in internet era or AI era, and there are a lot of free resources online. And we can use online translators such as like Google Translate or Translator, dictionaries or apps to translate written or spoken messages. However, be aware of the limitations and inaccuracies of online tools and always verify the meanings and the context of your messages, especially when it comes to health and safety communication and training. I might suggest getting help with translation from existing staff who have learned English quite well and ask them to review the translation to make sure everything is correct. And WSPS has created some videos and infographics on the most common hazard in the manufacturing sector in 5 languages. One of them is Mandarin. As a Chinese and a health and safety professional, I was so proud to be part of the team and provided peer review from beginning to end.
All right, so we got follow-up from training as well. So, but there's a question here I want to kind of get into before we get into the follow-up with training. It is difficult to get all training in different languages and very expensive. And yeah, you're absolutely right on that. It can be. What if this is not an option? For example, training in different languages. And Bill, what have you seen out there, or what would you recommend? Would you recommend like going back to visuals?
Available. I suggest that supervisors make themselves available after training or meeting. Some people may be reluctant to ask questions in public, or they might be afraid of asking stupid questions. Let your workers know there is no stupid questions in health and safety, and let them know that you are always available after the training or communication, or at any time, to answer questions about health and safety. Most of us don't learn something the very first time we hear it, so repetition can help. Quizzes, true or false questions, or contests can be used after training session to ensure learning quality. However, to have workers demonstrate what they learned is often the best way to prove their understanding. And some newcomers may equate speaking up with being fired, punished, or subject to physical harms or bullying. And for example, one supervisor we have worked with shared that one of his workers had been shot by an angry supervisor back home for speaking up. There could be traumatic experience that you don't know about in someone's working experience. Yeah. So it's important to offer reassurance to your workers. Talk to them about how workers' rights, violence and harassment policy and procedure and programs can help them, and the reprisal laws are designated to protect their rights and their safety in the workplace. And make sure this message is reiterated frequently at safety meetings, training, safety talks, and during one-on-one discussion with your workers. And employers must ensure that their supervisors have communication skills needed to be able to train, coach, and mentor newcomers effectively. Consider training supervisors who may want to learn to speak in the predominant language of their team members. And allowing employees to attend diversity training can help create a more understanding and inclusive workplace that helps employees work with people with various cultural experiences. Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. And some newcomers may equate speaking up with being fired, punished, or subject to physical harm or even bullying. And for example, we have been working with some supervisors and they shared some cases of their workers. One of a workers had been shot by an angry supervisor back home for speaking up. There could be traumatic experience that you don't know about in someone's working history. So it is very important to offer reassurance to your workers. Talk to your workers about how workers' rights, violence and harassment policy, procedure, and programs, and the reprisals laws are designated to protect them. Make sure this messaging is reiterated frequently at safety meetings, training, safety talks, and during one-on-one discussion with workers. And here we are on slide number 21, right? Yeah, okay, so now we are on number 21. Train your supervisors. And as employers, you must make sure supervisors have communication skills needed to be able to train, coach, and mentor newcomers effectively. Consider training supervisors who may want to learn to speak the predominant language of their team members. Allowing workers to attend the diversity training can help create a more understanding and inclusive workplace that helps workers work with people with various cultural experiences.
Which kind of, Bill, kind of brings us into the multilingual resources that we have. And we will send out the links in an email because I don't think everyone will be able to see it, but we will follow up with an email with these links. And Bill, can you talk a bit about the multilingual resources that you help build? I know like they're mobile friendly, right? You can get them on the phone and they cover, I think 5 different hazards or 6 different hazards in different languages. And you had, or you played an important part in the Mandarin, correct?
Yeah. So as I mentioned just now, WSPS has developed easy-to-use resources in different languages for workers in the manufacturing sector. And it is those resources also available in both mobile phone-friendly videos and written tip articles. These resources use plain language, cover hazards that often lead to serious injuries and fatalities in the manufacturing sector, including lockout, tagout, working with machines, slips, trips and falls, working around vehicles, and more. And the resources are also available in Spanish, Mandarin, French, Punjabi, Tagalog, and English. We also use a QR code poster you can print so your team can easily view these resources on their mobile devices. And here you see in the link wsps.news/manufacturing resources.
And it brings us to another polling question. So hopefully everyone will be able to see this. And Emily, if you're back there, if you can bring the polling question across, there you are. Perfect.
Yeah.
So we want to ask everybody out there in the audience, based on your experience, what other languages would you like to see for safety resources? And here's a few there, right? So we have Arabic, or if there's something else, please let us know in the chat. Yeah, we have Ukrainian, Vietnamese, Arabic. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Matisse, or Christine, rather. Slovak, yeah, that's a good one. Nepali, yeah, thank you, Anna. Yeah, Portuguese.
Push to.
Free, yes, absolutely. Thank you, Helen. Japanese, yes. Filipino. Okay, we're going to close this off in about 5 seconds. All right. So Bill, I don't know, what are you seeing, slide 19 still?
I'm okay. Yes, yeah. But
Okay,
yeah,
so-
so I think the next one will be slide 25, right? Workers'
Yeah,
rights.
workers' rights. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Can you mind stepping us through this one?
Okay, yeah. So another great resources we want to share is from our system partner, Workers' Health and Safety Center. They have translated information explaining basic workers' health and safety rights into 16 different languages. 16 languages.
And Bill, you've done some tremendous work with the settlement centers across the province.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so here I'm so excited to share with you about a new WSPS initiative. We launched the Settlement Agency Trainer project at the end of 2023. We have been working with settlement agencies across Ontario to provide free basic health and safety training to newcomers in 11 languages. And those languages are English, French, Spanish, Chinese, Ukrainian, Arabic, Farsi, Punjabi, Tagalog, Thai, and Vietnamese. Through this project, we can equip newcomers with basic health and safety awareness, meet the hiring needs of businesses, and help them save budget, time, manpower in basic health and safety training requirement, and build a safer Ontario. This game-changing project has significantly improved workplace health and safety in our province. Till now, we have built partnerships with 30 settlement agencies, conducted 38 training sessions for their 250 settlement workers, and they have delivered 44 training sessions to 536 vulnerable workers, including newcomers. And in 2024, we are still looking for new partners to join us. So if you think your workplace can benefit from this project, or if you know any settlement agencies who can take advantage of this free training project, please let us know.
And that brings us up to employee rights. And
yes.
Yeah, Bill, can you step us through this?
Yeah, so settlement, here we have a website called settlement.org. They have a lot of resources for employment rights, including Employment Standard Act information, what to do if you are injured at work, or rights as workers. So some resources also available in Dari, Pashto, Russian, and Ukrainian.
Okay. And this is how we can help. So some different things. We do have free resources on our website. We also have complimentary consulting with training and certificates, and we're also we also provide the Health and Safety Excellence Program. And now we want to get into our question and answer period. If there's any questions out there, if we missed a question and a little bit of technical difficulty, please let us know. We apologize for that. I think for Bill and I, this is going to be a story that we'll have 10 years down the road. We'll refer back to this as the time that we had that technical difficulty. And I know this will be tattooed in my mind for a long time. Hey, Bill, I do have a question for you, though. Now that I'm
Sure.
thinking about it, like when you first came, and I know that you understood English um, because you took it before as like in your youth and stuff like that. But for somebody that is coming to Ontario or Canada and their English is not very strong, right? And they don't quite understand or comprehend maybe um, everything that's happening. And what is something that you would recommend to help with the training? I know we talked a bit about visuals. Is that probably one of the best methods, or and maybe they can't, maybe the organization that's doing it can't afford a translator because it can be very expensive. And I know that like there is some information I was provided earlier, but just what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think yeah. So cause here in we are in Canada, so there are a lot of ways for newcomers to learn English. So first, as newcomers before entering the job market, they can go to like settlement agencies or like different education institute to learn English. We know that in Ontario, so we have different language programs like ESL or Link. So from those channels, they can improve their English skills. In the workplace as employers, they SPS, we already translated a lot of resources into different languages. And so that is save a lot of manpower, time, and resources for those employers. And if they need anything in other languages, maybe they can come to us first to let us know so we can focus our resources on those kind of translation. And they can, as we said just now, we are in internet era, and so they can search Google or even YouTube, a lot of useful resources online.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of ways, and it depends on their situation. But as I want to reiterate, WSPS is always their, I think their first and most trustworthy channel to look for resources in health and safety.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Yeah, and we are always here to help them.
Yeah. Okay. And I think what we'll do, Bill, is we'll call it because there's no more questions coming in, and just in the interest of technology right now, I think what we'll do. Um, hold on. Yeah, and that's a good point there, Cheryl. Thank you for sharing that.
And
But
yeah, so here I also want to yeah, emphasize as employers or supervisors, you must educate your workers. And in health and safety, we always say that there is no stupid questions. There is no stupid questions. So and we that is also part of my experience when delivering health and safety presentation to co-op students. Don't be afraid of asking stupid questions. And and actually the only stupid questions are the questions you don't ask. And you never know that the question you ask today and the answer you have today maybe in the future can help you or even can save you or your coworkers. So always encourage your worker to ask questions if they don't know, if they are not familiar with anything, or if they are not sure.
mhm.
Yeah.
Another question came in. Are there any acts, laws in the Occupational Health and Safety Act pertaining to language and training in the workplace?
And so I think for the Ministry of Labor, Immigration, Training and Skills Development, they always encourage the employer or supervisor to deliver the training in the languages mostly spoken by the workers in the workplace. But as we know, for most resources in health and safety, we only have English and French version. So that is why we create some resources in multiple languages.
Mhm. Okay. And I think in the interest of time, Bill, and we're losing you a bit there too as well with cutting out. I think we're going to sign off. And before we do, Bill, I want to thank you very much for your time. I found our chat this morning very informative. I always enjoy talking with you and working with you. And for all the folks that joined us today, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. We appreciate your input. We appreciate you being part of our session today. And I think that's it for today. And we want to wish everyone have yourself a very safe day, and we will see you soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.